All right, listen up. This is the Prime to Rise podcast. We are here to redefine education. Well, how do we do that? We prime you to bring value. We prime you to take advantage of opportunities. We prime you to rise up the ranks in your career. My name is Ike. I am your host. You can follow me at Don't Tread on Ike on Instagram. We also have my guy Chris here. You can follow him at Shine On. I will tag him in the posts. And of course, we have Ty, the video guy, our producer and beats master. There is one more thing before we dive in. We do have a student loan and budget calculator available on the website. Go check that out at prime2rise.com. That's prime, the number 2, rise.com. Go find out what the return on investment is for your education. We have one question today. What does it mean to get educated? There seems to be a notion or a theory out there that education is not for everybody just because people don't want to go to college. That is false. Education is for everybody. The question really is, what does education look like? And more importantly, what does it cost, right? So however much it's going to cost, you should get a return on that investment. So how do you do that? You go to prime2rise.com. That's prime, the number 2, rise.com. You go check out this student loan and budget calculator, and that's exactly what we're going to run you through right now. Everybody talks about going to college for certain majors, what's a good major, making 6 figures a year coming out versus going into the trades, because the trades is a noble thing and we're losing the ability to work with our hands. Well, there's a lot of other careers that are in construction. There's architecture, engineering, construction management. You can be a project manager. There's business development people, executives. There's all kinds of things in there, right? And for some of those jobs, a lot of people go to college. For some of those jobs, a lot of people go in the trades. The important thing is, again, what does the investment cost and what are you going to get out of it? So let's dive in to that tool that we have right now. So student loan calculator. Chris, you still paying student loans?
Nope.
Not paying student loans. How many people, we're both, 32? Or we're both in our early 30s, right?
Yep,
How many people do you know still paying student loans?
Pretty good amount, actually.
Most of my friends are still paying student loans, and they will be for the foreseeable future. And I feel like most people are paying those because of the interest rates, and they may or may not have understood what an interest rate was when they first came out.
Yeah.
Did you get that at 18 years old?
No. I'm fortunate I didn't have to pay for college myself. I went to state school here. I got my parents covered it, had the low tuition in state, all that kind of stuff. I'm very thankful for that, but most of my friends are still paying some form of,
free
loan.
education is the best education, right? Especially because the return technically is infinite when you divide tuition by starting salary, right? Even better than that would be if you got paid to get educated, right? So there's no interest rate there, right? And we're talking about going to trade school or an apprenticeship or something like that, but we'll cover that later. So when you look online, you will find that they'll tell you that the average student loan rate is about 6.54%. They'll tell you that a lot of people can get interest rates at 4.99%. But basically what a student loan interest rate is the amount of money that you're going to get charged for using that money. So if you take out a loan for $100,000, you're going to pay a percentage above and beyond that $100,000 every year until it's paid off. That's how they make their money. Right? So your loan is for $100,000. By the time 30 years goes by, you're going to pay far more than $100,000 to get rid of that loan. Okay? So what's the highest student loan that you've ever heard of?
I at some point I heard 14%, but I don't know how. I think this average that you have 6.54 here, that makes more sense. It's kind of hard to calculate too, because I've talked to people who have multiple student loans from different years, and then they have these portals that combine them and try to do average and consolidation. So even on top of this, it's kind of even more confusing than this.
So for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to operate under the assumption that we have a 4.99% interest rate, because that's the lowest one that I can find online. Okay? So 4.99 over 30 years will cost you, and we're going to say 30 years because when you find out about how much this costs, you're going to want the lowest monthly payment per, right? So that means that you have to extend it out over a longer period of time, which will, of course, cost you more money, but that's usually the strategy people go with. So 30-year loan, you'll be paying it into your 50s. if you have a $20,000 tuition, which would cost you $80,000 over 4 years, a 4.99 interest rate, you would pay $428.97 a month for your student loans. So call it $430 a month. That is a huge bill.
Yeah.
That is more than a lot of people pay for food. That is more than a lot of people pay for utilities. Okay, just to give you some perspective. And over that 30 years, you will end up paying, again, $20,000 tuition, $80,000 for 4 years. That'll cost you $154,000 by the time you pay that off. Okay? So that is a lot. So how does that tie into your life, right? So we go over to a life budget. Okay, so now you went to college. You have to pay for it. You're going to be paying for it into your 50s. You also got to pay to live, right? So it's not the only bill you're going to have. So let's operate under the assumption that you don't want to go back to your parents' house. You want to live on your own and you want to live a decent lifestyle, because that's why we go to college, right? We want to live a decent lifestyle. The average salary for somebody coming out of school is $40,000. For this exercise, we're gonna use the $50,000 mark just to prove a point, right? So first things first, income tax. Uncle Sam's coming for money, right? You make $50,000. That's going to be $4,100 a month that you're going to get in your check, okay? Uncle Sam's coming to take $917 from you. Chris and I live in the state of Florida, so that means that the state, Uncle Ron doesn't come down to get us for state taxes, but if you're in a state like California or Massachusetts, you're paying 5, 6, 7, 13% additional to that in state tax.
And if you're in Manhattan, you're paying, city tax on top of that.
I want to say it was like $200 for the year or for the month. But there is a city tax out there, and it sucks. So again, let's operate under the assumption we're in Florida, right? So we have no state income tax. What would you say a good rent is for a good apartment?
Per person, if you're like 21, let's say if it's just that person, I'll say $1,000 because you're probably going to be living with somebody.
Okay. Probably no HOA fees. We're not going to pay for bug people. Electric bills are pretty steep right now. What do you think? 120, 150?
I'm going to say if this is per person, I'm going to say $70.
$70?
I'm under the assumption you're living with somebody.
Water, I'll say $40, say 80 divided by 2. Cable
30.
30?
Yeah, because it's like or actually probably 60 because it's like $120.
Okay. You got a phone, $100 a month?
Yourself, 100.
Okay, miscellaneous. You got stuff. We won't even go through the miscellaneous stuff. And let's assume you don't have a pool. You're not going to ball out with your own pool and stuff like that. You got a car payment, right?
$300 at least.
$300 if you want a decent car. Okay, you're not rolling around on a cardboard box on tennis balls.
Car insurance for somebody that age, at least $150. That's probably conservative.
Okay, and then again, you gotta pay for oil and rotation. We're not even going to put this stuff in. How about gas? We're going to do gas twice a month. $100?
Yeah, $100. It's called.
Okay. We got groceries. You're going to feed yourself. We'll say $60 a week.
Yeah. Is this per week or month?
That's per month. That's a good point. So say $240. Mm-hmm. We're going to say you're never going to go out to lunch. You're never going to get dinner or coffee or buy yourself medicine or anything like that.
No medicine.
Medicine for you. Bars and restaurants, we'll see if we can afford that at the end. We also got haircuts. If you want kids, you're going to have to pay for diapers, food, clothes, wipes, medicine. You might want to get LifeLock. You might need life insurance, gifts, child expenses, charitable donations, vacations, books. We're not going to do any of that. So right now, we just simply have federal tax, student loan, mortgage or rent, cable, phone, car payment, groceries, and 2 tanks of gas. The basics to get by, right?
And this is like your life is perfectly going along.
Yeah, you haven't had a hiccup. You don't have a flat tire. You don't have anything going on yet.
No issues.
Okay, so your total income is $4,100 a month. Your total expenses would be $3,400 a month. You're coming out with about $760 per month. Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's go back. So you went to probably a state school. You got $20,000 in student loans for 4 years. You're making $50,000, which is above average for the average college student. You've got $700 a month, $760 a month to play with. just for perspective, let's say you went to a little more of an expensive school where it was $40,000 a year, especially after books and tuition, books and housing and yada, yada. Okay, suddenly you're down to $300 a month. Now remember, you still haven't taken a vacation, you haven't gone to one dinner, anything like that. Say you go up to $50,000, and you'll be shocked at what schools cost $50,000 a year. Okay, now you're down to $100 a month, and it goes from there. Now there's some state schools that cost that much money. Miami costs that much money. Penn State costs that much money. Ohio State costs that much money. Texas costs that much money. So again, you do not have a lot of wiggle room, and again, that is for an above average income. So,
damn, can we go
what do you
back
think
to that
about that,
loan calculator section real quick? So if you had a $50,000 annual tuition, it's $200,000 for 4 years. You don't start paying it until you leave. In the best case, if you pay that 30-year on schedule, you're at $1,000 a month. Holy shit! And $386 total over 30 years.
Right. So again, that's if you have a $50,000 tuition and you don't have a scholarship, okay, and you're going for 4 years, that's going to cost you $1,000 a month into your 50s. And instead of paying the $200,000 that you think you're taking it out for, you're going to pay $386,000. That sucks. That's like a really nice house in most areas.
It's like indentured servitude, dude. It's freaking nuts.
It is slavery. It's like slavery your entire life. I mean, again, I know people that are still in six figures of debt or $200,000 or more, and they still got another 20 years left. Yeah. They're trying to start families and things, and I mean, $1,000 a month is a lot of money for anybody. So when you want to get that nice house, or you envision yourself having a family, going on vacations and going skiing and stopping to get burgers and fries on the way, you might be getting burgers and fries, but you're not going anywhere outside of your hometown.
Well, with this, you're not going skiing without going in more debt.
Right.
And,
right.
Well, and yeah. So you either got to know where you want to go so you can make a lot of money and make that back quick and have a real path to that, or you're going to be fighting for a while. So,
and in this scenario, you got $120 extra to spend a month. You're probably not going to save it because you want to be social, right? And if you're a guy, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to go out to the bars with your friends. And if you want to date anybody, most girls out there, they want you to pay for it, right? Especially if you want to initiate some conversation. You want to buy somebody a drink. You want to take somebody out to dinner. You want to do anything nice for anybody. $120 a month for the month comes out to about $30 for the weekend, right? That's 2 drinks. In New York, Boston, even in Florida, it's like 2 drinks now.
It's getting there now.
So you get 2 beers a weekend.
Hey,
enjoy them.
You got a beer with your name on it.
Enjoy them, and then after that you're going to be in debt. And to be honest with you, that money that we threw you for gas and for food, you're probably eating a lot of beans, a lot of ramen noodles still, right? That's not going to end in college. A lot of mac and cheese. And listen, I did it because I went to get my master's degree, and I didn't have a student loan, so I paid it live, right? I mean, I literally lived on Walmart chicken and beans for a year. I've been there. It sucks. Yeah. Trust me, it sucks. So let's move on. Let's move on to, am I crazy? Do these schools actually charge this much? So when you go on our student loan calculator, you're going to see 2 tabs. You're going to see 4 tabs. The first one's going to be the loan calc. Then the life budget, we just went through those. Then what we have is a 3rd tab that lists out a ton of schools, tuitions, and starting salaries, both for the average graduate of that school, and it also shows what certain majors make when they come out of that specific school for that specific major. Now, when you look at these, my school is the only school that I'm aware of that ever advertised their tuition to starting salary ratio. That is the ratio when you're trying to evaluate the return on investment of going to college. Let me rephrase that. When you're trying to evaluate the return on investment of your education, because college is not the only education, you need to divide what it costs by what you're going to make when it comes out, right? So when you look at this, you're going to see ratios for tuition cost to salary cost. The higher that number is, the worse case you're in, right? In other words, if you see a ratio with a 3, that means for every $3 you spend on tuition, you're going to make $1 once you graduate, okay? If you see a $3 tuition in, out comes $1, okay? I wouldn't even look at any school that had a tuition to starting salary ratio higher than a 3. So let's look at the top 50, quote unquote, top 50 colleges in the country and their ratios, okay? Stanford actually doesn't have a bad ratio. It's 3.6. I never would have thought that, but they cost $340,000 a year. The average person coming out after a few years makes about 95, right? There's some crazy ones up here though. USC in California.
So we're looking at we're talking about this after 6 years. I think that's like a fair way to look at it because getting out off the jump, you're pretty much starting from square one. I think people need to know that you could spend $300,000 and come out at $29,000 on average. But
yes,
we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll talk about what it's like 6 years after coming out. What the average is.
So this is 6 years after enrollment for a lot of these. They're very crafty on the wording, but if you look at some of these, you have some big name schools up here, right? And let's just pick out a couple, right? Like Dartmouth and Brown, okay, an 8.8 ratio. All right, the average starting salary as an English major, that's like what they're known for, is $34,000. You're going to spend $300,000 to make 34. Okay, they're above average for most majors though. Most of their majors they make about 70,000, which is still a 4.1. So again, most people would be proud if their kid went to Brown. I'm not going to Brown, right? Some of these other ones, you got Georgetown. Okay, Georgetown, a 3.9.
But some of these, it's mind blowing that these things are over the course of 4 years, $300,000, dude. That's
the top
so
50
much.
schools in the country all average between like $72,000 and $80,000 a year, right? You can go to the University of Rochester for music, coming out making $19,000. That ratio is a 16. Okay, that's a $300,000 education to make 20. Another thing I'd like to highlight here is the nursing program at a school like U of Rochester. Nursing's a great thing to go to school for. You can come out making $65,000, right? That's like the national average is right in that neighborhood. But why would you pay $300,000 for a 4.6 ratio to make the same thing as somebody at a cheaper school?
Like much cheaper.
Right? So I bet, and we're going to look at this, there's a school in Florida with a ratio that's a 1 or a 2 for nursing, and you're going to make the same salary coming out. Right? Yale. How about Yale? Everyone knows Yale, right? You'd be proud to go to Yale. That's a 4. Okay? Caltech has a great ratio because of what they have as their most popular majors. That's a 3.6. And then we get down to some mainstream ones. How about Harvard? Harvard, 3.2. So, okay, like I said, if you're in the 3 range, I'd consider it. That's when I would start to consider it. Okay, but you get down to Ohio State, Penn State, you're looking at ratios in the 4s and the 5s. You look at Alabama, you're up at 5. You look at Georgia, you're up at an 8 for something like biology. Okay, so you look at these schools, go onto the website, take a look at this student loan calculator. It has ratios for a bunch of these schools, and if you don't see a school on there that you want to be interested in, look it up. This information is not hard to find. There's Glassdoor, College Simply. You can go on these schools' websites. You can find out the tuition. This is not very difficult. Okay. What I would like to point out is the difference between state schools and a lot of the schools that I had mentioned. If you look at the top 50 schools, most of them are private institutions, right? They charge $250, $300, $350, for a tuition, $100,000, right? And your ratios are really high. When you get down to state schools, you get to see some better numbers, right? You get to see stuff in the 3s and in the 2s, but only for certain majors, right? Because at this point, you're looking at tuitions that are less than $50,000. Many for in-state tuitions, right? You're going to see, FAU, FGCU, less than $20,000, right? UCF, less than $20,000. All these ratios are in the 1s and 2s. That's a great ratio. So that's why a lot of people go to state school because, again, you go for something like nursing, you're going to make the same amount of money for a cheaper education, okay? You get more return on that investment. Now, when you dive into these majors at each school, that's where you really see the difference, right? Because for some of these schools, you look and their majors will have a ratio of a 4 or a 5, but when you get to construction management, computer engineering, civil engineering, you have ratios in the 1s, right? But then when you look at psychology and biology, even the cheap schools have ratios above a 3, okay? Psychology and biology, you're looking at an average starting salary of less than $35,000 a year, right? So again, this information is great. And now we get to the good part. Now we get to the really sexy part. We get to that last tab. So what we go through on this last tab are salaries, averages across the country, no matter what the major is, but we compare them to what trades make. Okay, so for all of you people, like I said, like I said last week on the podcast, there are a lot of people telling you that it's noble to go into the trades, right? Screw being noble. I'm not here to talk about being noble. If you look at the trades, not only do you not really need to pay anything for these, but you can often get paid to get this education. So the ratio is more than infinite. It's better than infinite when you divide by 0, right? So average starting salaries by college major in the U.S. Okay, I highlighted in green on these tabs the ones that have to do with engineering. Chris, for those of people who can't see it, on that list, where are all the green majors?
They're on the top half of that list.
Top half of the list: fire protection engineer, plumbing engineer, structural engineer, civil engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. You guys see a common theme here? Construction management, architecture, all in the top 10, right? Mm-hmm. Also in the top 10, you can get some economics degrees, right? Some very specific ones, nursing, like we already talked about, computer science. Obviously, there is a huge need for computer science right now. At the bottom of the list, we see things like finance, communications, business, liberal arts, biology, journalism, marketing, film. Every single one of those that I just listed, less than $50,000 to start. The last 4 or 5, liberal arts, biology, journalism, marketing, less than $40,000. And those are the most popular majors you tend to see.
But I was just wondering if you ever have a chance to go back and look and see like what the trend is of more and more people joining those, because you see those kind of degrees more frequently than you see engineering, civil engineering, electrical, construction, all that kind of stuff. So right. I'm wondering if it's also like a saturation thing.
So I think it could be a saturation thing, but I also think that it's what people find value in, right?
Especially
like there's
right
tangible
now.
Value in an engineer, what an engineer can do. There's tangible value in a construction professional, what they deliver to you. People can touch it, they can feel it, it can immediately impact them. What is a marketing person tangibly going to do for me?
Yeah.
Right? That's a very subjective thing to bring to somebody.
Super subjective.
Super subjective. But you look at, even the top 50 of these schools, some of the majors that are listed, their most popular majors: film, art, English, medical, which isn't like becoming a doctor. That's like a bachelor's degree that makes you $50,000 a year. Liberal arts, poli-sci. There's 3 schools on this top 50 list that when you look up what they're best at, they're listed as number 1, number 5, and number 6 women's college. What the hell does that mean? Yeah. And, we got the number 1 women's school in the country, and their tuition to starting salary ratio is a 6.1. There are better options out there for women.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
Right? And that they're not the only one. I mean, they're actually the one with the best ratio on this list, right? So let's go into the trades. So everything that I just listed, those construction majors, the averages across the country, you're looking at for the bulk of them, between $65,000 and $75,000 at a starting salary. When the other popular majors that people go to school for are in like the 35 to 45 range. Yeah. Okay? That is a huge difference. For the same tuition, you're going to go to the same school for. Okay? That's where you get the best ratio, is when you go to something construction related, you're going to get the best tuition to starting salary ratio.
Well, and just like I was talking about before, I got lucky that I had my education paid for. Like, I lucked out on that because I thought that going through, middle school, high school, college, all these things, you get fed this stuff like you got to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to start off higher salary, all that stuff. And then when I got out, it was like I looked around and it was the same jobs that were just readily available for you were call centers, entry-level marketing, entry-level sales, like all these things that you could have not gotten a degree and I could have been making the same amount of money doing that. So
Right.
it was a real jolt of like, I thought that I was just getting this like almost like a free pass into an easier way, or like getting past the hard part because I already did that. That's why I went here.
Right.
And then you hit the real world and you're like, the hell, like
Nobody told me this,
Yeah.
right? Like nobody told me that college was going to cost this much and I was going to get this little in return.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think of psychology or biology, you're like, man, you got to be a freaking brainiac. You got to be a scientist to be a psychologist or biologist. Well, you're clearly not good at math. Or you clearly didn't just break out the Google machine and check out how much money you were going to make, because you're going to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to make $30,000 a year. There's
Yeah.
somebody that lives in our neighborhood, right? Because we live in the same neighborhood. And he's the dude that's always kicking the bag in the gym.
Okay.
Scares the crap out of me. Right? But he's going to school right now for biology, and he realized like that's a really popular major in Florida because marine biology, whatever. But he's realizing like, dude, I'm wasting my money right now because I'm already making better money than I'm ever going to make with anything that I can do with a biology degree. And of course, like we need people that know biology, but all right, leave that for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, or you better love it because you're going to be poor
Yeah.
for a long time, right? So let's talk about the trades, because I think this is going to shock many people. Okay, so again, the highest starting salary rate, the highest starting salary jobs coming out of college that I could find were in the mid 70s, right? This is after you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for school. I pulled all of the labor rates for trades in Boston, the prevailing wage rates. These are for guys and women who have graduated from an apprenticeship, right? So they've been getting paid to get an education. Some of them are 4 years, some of them are 2 years. Some of them, it's not even formal, but a company will get you up to that level, right? Carpenter, sprinkler and gas fitter, $68 an hour. That's $136,000 a year. That's before you contribute anything to your health, your pension, work an hour of overtime, okay? You got plumber. You want to be a union plumber in Boston? $128,000 a year, okay? HVAC pipe fitter, $100,000 a year. I mean, an elevators are great to work on. You could build elevators for a living for $112,000 a year. You could do demo for $83,000 a year. You could swing a sledgehammer. You could paint. You could be a painter and a taper for $40.91 an hour. You could make $81,000 a year, and this is before you even do an hour of overtime, which you then get sometimes time and a half, sometimes double time. You want to work a holiday, you get paid triple time. Okay. And even on top of that, you're getting the best medical benefits. You are getting a pension. You are getting an annuity. You are building wealth that will allow you to retire early. Right. So it's like you could go into debt and you can make decent money coming out, which is totally fine. I mean, it's what I did. Right. Obviously, construction is related things in college are the best. Or you can get paid to get educated and then still make sometimes double or triple what college graduates are making. This evidence is here. You can Google this. Go on your state website, find out what prevailing wages are. And some people will say, oh, well, those are union jobs. The non-union people don't make that much. You know why a lot of people don't want to go union? Because they don't want anybody telling them what they have to make or what they can charge somebody or what they have to pay somebody while they're learning. Okay? When you get outside of that, a lot of guys, again, in our neighborhood, I talked to an electrician who never graduated high school, he never graduated college, and he never was in a union shop. He made $10,000 last week as an electrician, right?
Yeah.
So this is just the floor. Again, you can still make this money and then go into the office as a manager. You can go into the office as an executive. You can start your own company. You can be your own solo, one-man show or one-woman show and charge way more than this. And people will pay it because there are not enough people around to bring this tangible value that people need so much and that will never go away.
It's crazy, dude. This is, Yeah, I'm like, shit, what am I doing, dude?
What are we doing in here, right? We should have been carpenters or sprinkler fitters. And I mean, a sprinkler fitter, I'm not talking about sprinklers in your yard, guys. I'm talking about like sprinkler systems in commercial buildings, right? Plumbing and gas, marble and tile, 121,000. You know, a mason, okay, somebody that does brick, 116. A roofer, 89. Flooring, you want to lay carpet, you can make $85,000 a year laying carpet as a prevailing wage in the city of Boston. Okay, so
This is crazy.
So again, people want to talk about nobility. You know what's noble? Being able to put food on the table for your family at $136,000 a year with a skilled trade, something that you need a license for. You know what's noble? Being able to pass that knowledge on to somebody else. You know what's noble? Having money to build wealth for those around you, right?
Yeah.
Handing off these skills to other people. And to be honest with you, you know what's funny? I don't know, and I just thought of this right now. You look at the amount of money that these guys are making. I don't know one person that has a trade, a skill set that's poor or that's hungry. In fact, actually, I think it enables some people to be drug addicts because they have so much freaking money, right?
If you want to be a drug addict.
Yeah, if you want to be a drug addict, the best way to do it is to make them a lot of money in the trades, right? No, but the point is that even when your life is falling apart around you, your skill set still puts an above average amount of money to put food on the table for yourself, for the people around you, and there's just no better way to serve the community, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, okay. I'd recommend people go check this out. Go download it because this is pretty eye-opening. And I'm glad we can talk through this while we're looking at it. And I think if people go back and actually look at this, they pull it up while they're listening, you'll get a lot out of this because we were given some pretty light estimates in terms of costs of what this actually looks like. So, I don't know. Check it out. Reach out. Let us know what you think. And
check it out. Go to prime2rise.com, prime2rise.com. You'll log in and it'll spit this at you. Right now, this is the only tool that is on there. In the future, there will be standard schedules, submittal logs, checklists, estimating tools, things like that. So prime2rise.com. We'll see you next time.